Let's tell you about members of the Standing Committee on Public Accounts. They are today doing a follow-up visit to some train stations in Cape Town. The first was in April this year, where security challenges, vandalism and illegal settlements on the railway line were flagged. SCOPA has raised concerns about the delays in the completion of repairs on the Cape Town Central line service in Khayelitsha. Athi Mtongana is standing by to tell us where in the process this visit is at this hour. Athi, good afternoon.
Before they engage members of PRASA. Of course, the top brass of PRASA has really been with them throughout today as they visited various stations that form part of Cape Town's troubling central line. We heard a lot of the commuters in some of the areas we went to, like Khayelitsha, complaining about the services and the lack thereof, particularly when it comes to their safety around stations like Khrisani in Khayelitsha. But I'm joined by the chairperson of the Standing Committee on Public Accounts to tell us about this follow-up visit. Let's perhaps begin with this issue of safety, because that's primarily what we heard from the residents in Khayelitsha.
Well, you see, it's a double-edged sword. The first instance is that we must recognize that those households should not have been built there to begin with. But now we must resolve the problem. So I think there has to be a sense of citizenry responsibility in that regard as well. Now, the situation has become dire, right, and it's complicated in its material facets. And PRASA's got a duty and a responsibility to run the trains. Now, money has been made available, right, and limited services are being restored and people are being moved and so on. But in large part, whatever success story exists now is far outweighed by the problems that persist. And so hence then this follow-up visit, one to assess where things are, and it's quite clear that we've reached crunch time. There's no other step now other than the fact that people must be relocated. So tomorrow's engagement in that context is about bringing everybody together. HDA as the implementing agent of the Department of Human Settlements, who will also be there, City of Cape Town, Department of Transport and PRASA, to say when and how are we now going to actually relocate people, because there's temporary interim interventions, then there's the long-term solution. All of them have to be coherent in order to allow the services to come back. Our sense is that there's no cooperation to the point that it's satisfactory to arrive at the desired outcome. And secondly, there are challenges with political will and political considerations. So the advice I can give, in all of the parties appearing before us tomorrow, so that whatever issues you have, gravitate towards providing reasons as opposed to excuses.
I do want to continue this conversation, Chair. I'm going to ask my colleague, we're going to move out of shot so my colleague can pan and show you the settlement here, the dwellings that have been a problem for the central line for quite some time. And as you say, this is your follow-up. Some of the responses that you gave, I figure, are responses that you received the last time you were here. The people are still here. Fundamentally, what is being looked at now is land. How are you going to ensure, given the fact that you can see that these parties that are actually supposed to work together are not entirely speaking in one accord?
Well, we've not had an opportunity to hear them, right, in their collectiveness. The people whom we've mainly interacted with is PRASA. So the City of Cape Town in itself must state its case. HDA and Human Settlements as well must state their case. Yes, land before has been identified and assessments were done that it was not suitable for human settlement, and therefore other considerations have to be made now to find land elsewhere. So we have to look at whether there's state land available, private land available. But at the end of the day, it will be a dereliction of duty and political obfuscation on the front of the politicians if they do not arrive at a lasting solution. Our concern is that the longer you sustain this undesirable situation, the more problems PRASA is going to have, and therefore meaning more money has to be pumped into PRASA by the state. Whereas we are expecting PRASA to be generating its own revenue to run its own programs. The challenge with the SOEs is that the default position whenever they've got a problem or they fail is a bailout. But it's not sustainable and it's not a viable business model. And we can't continue relying on this kind of outlook. PRASA has to be saved. And PRASA needs to return back to service in full, and PRASA must be able to generate money. The final consideration is that some of the consequences we are feeling now arise out of reckless and irresponsible decisions by prior boards. So those we will also look at in order to ensure that consequence management, even after the fact, takes place on so far as those people are concerned. But I think at this point in time, our consideration is that let's get PRASA up and running. But what we are not prepared to accept is that solutions are not available. Solutions are there. They just need to be implemented. And contracts have been signed. Compacts have been signed. So everybody must be committed to their own commitments insofar as those compacts are concerned.
Right. Thank you so much for your time. Khuluga Shwenga, the chairperson of the Standing Committee on Public Accounts. Well, as my colleague showed you, Dudu, these are some of the dwellings that are on the railway line that are in the way and have been a bone of contention for quite some time. The issue now is going to be ventilated tomorrow when they physically appear in Parliament as the Department of Human Settlements, the City of Cape Town, as well as PRASA, as to where these people will be moved to and what other plans they have in place, and in terms of implementation, particularly around security as well. But I will leave it there for now. We'll bring you more of those updates tomorrow when they meet.
Okay, thank you very much, Athi Mtongana, coming to us from Cape Town.